Broadcasting live from an undisclosed location. This is the TCMMA podcast with your host, Chris Cross.
Whoa!
Dana White privilege.
Let's go, baby! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go, baby!
Dana White privilege. Privilege. Privilege.
What up, what up? This your boy Chris Cross checking in. This is the TCMMA podcast. And UFC 304 predictions are in, at least for most of the main card. We got a couple predictions for you on today's show as well, but we'll get into that a little bit later because we have more pressing issues to get to, right? Circulating today in the UFC news. You got Kayla Harrison reveals she currently weighs 170 pounds with a fight announcement looming. She's going to fight at 135. She's got to drop 35 pounds. Unbelievable. But we'll explain why that's the case, right? It's not just like she blew up. She, of course, moves up in weight, but not 170, right? So I'm sure she's not looking forward to that weight cut. I say give her a title shot right now. UFC bantamweight champion Sean O'Malley explains Conor McGregor isn't in anyone's GOAT conversation, and that's surprising. But when you look at the all-time GOATs like Khabib and John Jones and others, maybe he's right. We'll dive into that momentarily. Tom Aspinall lauds high-level Leon Edwards ahead of title showdown, one of the highest fight IQs in the game. And Belal Muhammad says training with Khabib Nurmagomedov for UFC 304 has him on a different level. And I believe that. I think that is a big deal that people are not focusing on, although we still got Leon Edwards winning if you didn't see the previous podcast. And finally, Mike Tyson, your next boy, says Jake Paul. So that fight is looming large, even though he called out Alex Pereira. We're going to get into all that that involves Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul, including if Jake Paul will ever fight Alex Pereira. I mean, will that fight actually happen? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But let's jump into it. Let's go back to the top and begin with Kayla Harrison. So she's got to drop 35 pounds to make weight at 135 for her next fight. And is the next fight for the title? I don't think so, right? Rockwell Pennington is not going to fight Kayla Harrison, at least not right now, even though she should be fighting for the title, right? Former Bellator champ has come in and proven herself. In Michael Chandler's second fight, he got the shot against Charles Oliveira, nearly won the fight. So why isn't Kayla Harrison getting the title shot? She may very well. I'm not sure if it's the first, but as far as in recent history, for sure, a Bellator champion coming over and winning the UFC title. It seems highly likely. She says, I don't hover around 135 very well after my fight. I told myself, don't get out of control, and then I had surgery, then I got an infection, and then it was my birthday, and so things got a little out of control, but I'm back on the plan. After my surgery and the infection, I didn't even want to weigh myself because I could just feel how swollen I was. But I got back up to my judo weight, which was 170. Yes, I am dreading it. It is really hard in talking about losing that weight. So it's you hear a lot about fighters like Paddy Pimblett as well, blow up between fights, cut way down. Paddy Pimblett looks unreal ahead of his fight versus King Bobby Green this Saturday night. But Kayla Harrison, this is a different level. 35 pounds. That's a lot of weight to cut. I'm sure she'll get right down to 150, 155, no problem. And then the real work begins. That's when the real work begins. So she's got her work cut out for her. Make no mistake about it. UFC bantamweight champion Sean O'Malley says Conor McGregor isn't anyone's GOAT list. He's not in the GOAT conversation. He says Conor isn't in anyone's GOAT talk. Entertainment, yes, but skills, no. Has a really good left hand. Bad cardio. Weak jiu-jitsu. Decently athletic. Mentally weak. And he's an addict who needs rehab. 1-4 in the last 5 fights. Still a fan, though. Hope toe heals up. So he basically blasts McGregor and says, hey, I'm still a fan. I find that funny. You know? But is he lying? I say right now, no, he's not. And the chances McGregor comes in and returns to his old form is slim to none because he's already said, hey, I got 2 fights left. He's talking about BKFC. He's talking about boxing. McGregor's all over the place. And just like I said with Hamza, these guys got to get focused, man. Forget all this other stuff. You got to get focused because right now you're not fighting. And yeah, McGregor doesn't pull out of fights, but he did pull out of the last one. And he hasn't fought in some time since the injury. So it's like we need to see McGregor return to form and forget all this other talk if anyone's going to take him seriously. So I tend to agree with Sean O'Malley, which is tough for me because you know what a huge Conor McGregor fan I am. But the reality is he's got to get back in the octagon and prove his worth. And until he does that, people are going to take shots at him like Sean O'Malley. But I don't think Sean O'Malley's telling a lie. And I think he is a McGregor fan, believe it or not. Even though they've had issues recently, he still was a McGregor fan, but he is telling the truth. Now, UFC 304 is looming. Tom Aspinall says Leon Edwards is high level ahead of title showdown, one of the highest fight IQs in the game. And I believe that. I mean, this guy can finish you. He can definitely go to a decision. You saw against Usman, he was down 3-1 and got the KO. So this guy, and that's a high-level fight IQ because it's like with a minute left, he knows I need to finish or I'm getting ready to lose this fight. And I'm fighting the number 1 pound-for-pound guy on the planet in Kamaru Usman at the time. Not Usman right now, but Usman at the top of his game. KO'd him, then came back and beat him in a decision in the second time around. Now, Belal Muhammad is saying that training with Khabib has put him on a different level. I believe that too, right? He trailed in the first fight like 19-8 in significant strikes. It was early, but you can kind of see which way that fight was going. Leon Edwards was having his way with Belal, not putting himself in dangerous territory. Instead, keep him at a distance, not going in too much. But you look at the course of that fight. If it goes, can't remember if this is a 3 or 5 rounder, but if that fight did go 5 rounds, you're looking at like 80 to 50 in significant strikes. Leon Edwards wins 4 rounds to 1. Easy money. But the fact he's training with Khabib is going to be interesting to see if his ground game is going to be legit in this fight, which I'm sure if he's working with Khabib, that ground game is going to look much better. He's going to get the head on the hip for sure. Colby Covington couldn't do it, and Colby Covington's got a good control game, but according to him, he was injured during that fight, and that's why it looked like that. So we'll have to wait and see, but I'm highly interested in the welterweight title this Saturday night. Now, Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson, and while we're here, make sure you get into the chat room and, get involved with the poll, who you like, who wins, Mike Tyson or Jake Paul. But Jake Paul says, hey, Mike Tyson, you're next, big boy. You're next. Sign the contract. November 15th on Netflix. I love it. I got Netflix. I'm ready. 100%. It's happening. And, where does Mike Tyson fit in among UFC fighters that moved to boxing and with the Fury loss that Jake Paul had? Tyson and old Tyson, not even a question who wins this fight. I mean, Jake Paul wouldn't last 2 to 3 minutes. Older, 57, 58-year-old Mike Tyson, he's got a chance. First couple rounds will be interesting, but if he starts landing that jab and keeping the distance and Tyson can't get in, it's going to be a long night for Mike Tyson, even though it's 2-minute rounds. That definitely changes the potential outcome, right? 3-minute rounds, I say Tyson's in big trouble after the second. But now he's not in trouble till the 4th, 5th, 6th round, and then the fight's almost over. So he's going to be able to, use some endurance early here and be okay because the rounds are going to be, 2-minute rounds is going to be over quick. Think about watching a UFC fight and they go 5 minutes. 2-minute rounds, like they're going 3 rounds before the first round's over. So Tyson's going to be in good shape and it favors him if that's the way they stay, which is what they had previously. Now, Jake Paul did go on to say he's training and looking crazier than ever. Netflix, I'll prove everybody wrong. Everybody said I was making a mistake with this fight against Perry. but I take risks. And I thought he was taking a risk, but you got to fight. That's what fighters do. And he went in there and handled business, even though he's saying he wasn't feeling great, and he had a slight injury and all this. He says, Mike, I love you, but this is my sport now. You're a legend. You're one of the two most famous boxers to ever live, alongside Muhammad Ali. So I'm honored to share a ring with you, but I want to take your throne. And, listen, if this is a no-win situation for Jake Paul, which is, a different setting for him, right? If you lose to a 57, 58-year-old. If you win, you just beat a 57, 58-year-old. People are going to say, Mike Tyson's over the hill. He looks slow. He didn't look great. Jake Paul will get no props here. But what it does do is that people are going to be tuning in and watching, right? Obviously, because it's Mike Tyson. That's all that matters. Then he calls out Alex Pereira. Why do you think he called out Alex Pereira? Because he knows there's money to be made there. And if you're Alex Pereira, I think you take that fight. You fight anyone else, it's a big deal. But you fight Jake Paul, you're breaking records. Right? Why get into a true boxing fight with some of these big-time boxing fighters? I mean, boxing is a dead sport. And you say, whoa, Chris Cross, what are you talking about? Yeah, it's dead sport. This is why Jake Paul is at the top of the ticket. You saw the co-main event the other night. What a great fight that was. I think both guys were undefeated, if I'm not mistaken. But they're not headlining because nobody cares. They only care because Jake Paul's getting ready to come on, so everyone's watching that fight. So boxing's a dead sport, which is why you need the big names now. And Alex Pereira would be much better off fighting Jake Paul as opposed to fighting like a Fury or an Anthony Joshua or someone like that. There's just way more money to be made in these show fights. And after you get done, winning titles, defending titles, maybe winning the heavyweight title, whatever have you, then it's time to make some money. And you're nearing 40 years old if you're Alex Pereira, right? You're 37 now. So, it's time to make some money as you wind down the career. And what an impressive career it's been. But he's still got a lot of tread on those tires, I'll tell you that right now. So I'm highly interested in all this stuff that involves Jake Paul, 100%, because Jake Paul has changed the game. And to me, he looks like a legitimate boxer, right? He lost to Fury, but make no mistake, this guy looks like a legitimate fighter 100%. So as long as he continues to fight, I will be watching. Now, as we progress into the show, let's get into some more UFC 304 predictions. We'll get into some more news as we go. But in this next one, I believe we got Jake Hadley stepping in, right, against Colin Loughran. And he's stepping in on short notice. His fight just announced today. So let's get into that prediction right now. In the bantamweight division at UFC 304, you got your boy Jake Hadley coming in at 10-3, taking on Colin Loughran, who comes in at 9-1. And Jake Hadley's taking this fight on short notice. He wasn't supposed to be in this fight. There was a dropout. In comes Jake Hadley. So good for him. He's 1 inch taller at 5'7", right? He normally fights at flyweight, but can go back and forth. So he's stepping up at bantamweight and will be noticeably quicker than Loughran. This is what we tend to see. Now, Hadley's 27, Loughran's 28. Hadley has a 2-inch reach advantage. He's fighting left-handed, Loughran fighting right-handed. Loughran, 6.3 significant strikes per minute. That's pretty darn fast for a bantamweight. Jake Hadley, 3.4 per minute. Takedown average also goes to Loughran, 2.5 over the course of 3 rounds. So you can look at that as like almost 1 per round. Jake Hadley, 35% takedown defense. Not pretty, right? And a lot of these struggles coming in the last 2 fights where he lost to Charles Johnson, good fighter, by decision. Cody Durden by decision. Before that, he beat Malcolm Gordon, good fighter, by KO, and submitted Carlos Candelario. He also lost to Alan Nascimento and beat Mitch Raposo. So he was 7-0 coming into the UFC at one point. Very similar to Loughran, right? Loughran came in and lost to Taylor Lapilus. I would expect that by decision, right? But he did have 2 takedowns to none. Also against Angel Pacheco, he won by decision, 140-88 in significant strikes, 3 takedowns to none. This is a problem for Jake Hadley. And I'm a Jake Hadley fan, and he's fighting in England, but I don't know if he can overcome this one. I mean, Loughran is going to look to take down Jake Hadley. And the fact he's moving up divisions, you're facing, a guy that's used to being a bantamweight. He's strong, he's fast, he can take you down. I think Jake Hadley's going to struggle in this fight, but give him credit for stepping up and taking a fight in a weight class above what he's normally used to more times than not, and that's the flyweight division. So I like Colin Loughran to win this fight. The Irishman will get the job done, and we'll just have takedown after takedown and control this fight to move to 10-1, in my opinion. Bantamweight division, UFC 304. Yeah, so we're just having some fun with these extra predictions, but Jake Hadley stepping up on short notice, moving up to a higher weight class, which suits him well because he doesn't have to lose the weight. But is he going to be a solid 135er, bantamweight fighter like Colin Loughran, who's like 9-1, maybe 10-1, whatever, he just has one loss? I don't think so. And again, I'm a Jake Hadley fan, but I can't go with him on this one. Now, you got another highly, highly intriguing fight between CLD, Christian Leroy Duncan, and Gregory Robocop Rodriguez. These guys have both won like 3 of the last 4, 4 of the last 5. So this fight looks like it's going to be in the main card, although they keep shuffling the deck. We'll see. But this is a highly intriguing matchup either way it goes. Check it out. In the middleweight division at UFC 304, you got Christian Leroy Duncan coming in at 10-1, taking on Gregory Robocop Rodriguez, who comes in at 15-5, and you gotta love the nicknames, right? Or all the extra names that are involved here. So you got Robocop versus CLD. So let's get into it. Robocop Rodriguez, 1 inch taller at 6'3". He's 32. Duncan's 29. Duncan does have a 4-inch reach advantage. He's a switch stance fighter. Rodriguez stands right-handed. Both guys heavy strikers, lots of activity, landing 6 significant strikes per minute each. So expect a very active fight on the feet. But hold on a minute, because Robocop lands like a takedown per round. So that's something to keep an eye on. And CLD has just a 50% takedown defense, so that could be a problem. But he's coming off back-to-back wins over Claudio Ribeiro by KO, Denise Tuliulin by KO. He did lose to Armin Petrosian by decision after beating Dusko Todorovic. So he's 3-1 since entering the UFC. Robocop, on the other hand, has been around for a long time, right? As I scroll down, I'm looking at like 8 or 9 UFC fights. He's won back-to-back against Denise Tuliulin and Brad Tavares. He did lose to Bruno Ferreira, good fighter, beat Chidi Njokuani and Julian Marquez. So this guy continues to surprise, right? He loses a fight here and there, like he lost to Petrosian by split decision. So did his opponent. Lost to Bruno Ferreira by KO. That was a surprise. Because other than that, if he pulls out that fight against Ferreira, he's won 5 in a row. So the guy is a very tough fighter. It seems like when I go with him, he falls. Then I go against him and he wins, and it's very confusing. But looking back, the guy wins more times than not. He's also got more experience. And I think it's going to play out in this fight. Yeah, Rodriguez has 5 losses, but I'm going to have to overlook that for now because Duncan is a little bit more early on in the game than Rodriguez, who has double the fight. So I like Gregory Rodriguez to get the win here. I think he's going to win this thing by KO, by finish. That's how he wins his fights, more times than not, right? I mean, someone's getting KO'd. In the last 5 fights that Robocop's been in, he's won 4 by KO and lost 1 by KO. So somebody is getting KO'd here, and I believe that's going to be CLD Christian Leroy Duncan. We'll have to wait and see. But that's my opinion here. Middleweight division, UFC 304. Yeah, and Robocop's a tough one to predict, man. It seems like I've won a couple with him, but I've lost a couple too. I go against him, he wins. I pick him, he loses. Very tough. So I just, he's won 4 of the last 5. So I just kind of came to the conclusion, you know what? Just ride with him. You might lose one here and there, but you're going to win 75 to 80%, which is above our average. So I got to go with RoboCop to win this fight. Now, some other news coming out during the show here. Coach claims Belal Muhammad has hands like Canelo Alvarez ahead of UFC 304. Leon better be ready. And this is through MMA News. I don't see it, man. I don't, Is Belal going to be better? Yes. Is this going to be a tough fight for Leon Edwards? Yes. But will he win the fight? Yes, he will. Ronda Rousey, according to Sportskeeda, says maybe it means they still miss me. Right? Everyone asking if she's coming back, making a comeback. You need a big name in this division. And wouldn't it be great to see a healthy, back in shape Ronda Rousey take on Kayla Harrison and just absolutely get dominated? Of course it would be fun. But it's not going to happen. She wants a family. She wants a lot of kids. And, when you get to a certain age, you got to make that happen. You can't be waiting until you're 40, right? I think she's in her late 20s or early 30s now, so probably closer to 30, early 30s. So the time is now for Ronda Rousey, right? She's got to make a decision, and it seems to me like the UFC and WWE careers are on hold, if not done, at least for the moment. So that's what you got going on there, right? She's also saying that with Vince McMahon gone, WWE women's division is taking steps forward, and that probably means without her, right? So they need people that are going to be there. And of course, Leon Edwards and Belal Muhammad, the war of words continues to intensify as we get closer. But let's jump back into another UFC 304 prediction before we get out of here. And this one is your prelim main event. Nathaniel Wood versus Daniel Pineda. Check this out. In the featherweight division at UFC 304, you got a big one here. Nathaniel Wood comes in at 20-6. Still a lot to prove. Takes on the veteran Daniel Pineda, who comes in at 28-15, but those losses are piling up. Pineda, 1 inch taller, 5'7". He's 38, Wood 31. Both guys 69-inch reach. Both guys stand right-handed. Wood has a big advantage on the feet, nearly 6 significant strikes per minute to 3 per minute for Pineda. Wow. Both guys land about one takedown, maybe a little more, but one takedown every other round. So takedown defense will be important, 70% for Wood, 48% for Pineda. So everything's going against Pineda right now. But Wood lost to Muhammad Naimov in his last fight by decision, very close. 50-48, he led in significant strikes, but trailed 4 takedowns to 2. Before that, he won 3 in a row against Charles Rosa, Charles Jourdain, and Andre Feely. So winning 3 of the last 4. He's got to be coming in with some confidence. On the other side, Pineda lost to Alex Caceres, good fighter by decision. Beat Tucker Lutz, and lost to Cub Swanson by KO. So, this one's simple to me. It seems like an easy victory for Nathaniel Wood, and a lot of times, this is the prelim main event, if you will, leading us into the pay-per-view, and a lot of times this is going to be a big finish on purpose to give the UFC a lot of time to get into the pay-per-view card and people to make decisions to buy the pay-per-view. Why is this important? Because Nathaniel Wood is going to dominate this fight, and I fully expect him to finish the fight, either by submission or KO. To move to 20-7 here, in my opinion, pretty easy. Featherweight division, UFC 304. And usually see this in the main prelim fight, because here's the deal. Here's what the UFC wants. This fight usually kicks off right around 9:35. Pay-per-view starts at 10. If this fight ends in the first round, it ends at 9:40, 9:45. Everyone's lingering around for 30 minutes, right? Even when they get into the pay-per-view at 10, they're going to talk for 15, 20 minutes. It gives you like a half hour for people to say, oh my gosh, I got to order the pay-per-view, right? Give them time to marinate. I can't miss this. I got to be a part of this. And boom, people are impulsively buying the pay-per-view. And it just makes total sense for the UFC. So you want a big finish here, and you want people to get excited and say, hey, I just saw a beautiful KO. Or submission, a great fight. I can't miss the next 5 fights. And bam, you get a big surge right around 10 o'clock for the pay-per-view. So, you know, that's why I believe Nathaniel Wood gets the finish. It's set up that way, and it should be. But listen, that's a wrap for today's show. We'll be back tomorrow. I'm sure there'll be a lot more breaking news over the next 24 to 48 hours as we get closer and closer to UFC 304. We'll be right here to bring you all the noise. But for now, this your boy Chris Cross. Hope y'all have a great day and God bless. As always, peace.